If you see someone with 100,000 followers and they're only reaching 8,000 people a month, there's something off there. Don't buy their course because clearly they're not doing something right. And it gets me into what you're saying. How do you be authentic? That's what everyone says in these things. Well, you got to be yourself. Well, unfortunately, as soon as you put a camera in front of someone, their self goes out the window.
Right before we jumped on the podcast and John brought it up, he was like, you know what's impressive about Matt? You know, he went from real estate to creating content to doing the podcast. And now he's speaking in conferences. And it's like, you think about what we're scared of as humans. We're scared of death and like heights, right? And they say public speaking is like, could be a good third fear to deal with, right? And especially for you to say like you had anxiety and now you're doing these gigs where you're speaking in front of people. Like I know repetition of doing it over and over again, but how do you even get comfortable with something like that? Because everybody wants like, you know, clapping and like people to like engage with them. But when that doesn't happen, that's like horrifying. So I guess, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, you only get that from actually really doing it. Like I said, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. My biggest thing wasn't really getting up on the stage. It was all the stuff before that gave me all the anxiety, like the travel, the plane, you know, where am I going to stay? What, like there was just so much things that would just be anxiety ridden for me. But I knew I always wanted to speak. So once I started to get the opportunity, I knew I had to answer the call. I've eaten shit on stage too. Like I've said a joke that just totally bombed. That's just part of it. And you don't know until you know. And then you get better from it. And in the moment, it's horrifying. But you just keep doing it. And then you really start to like really develop your craft after a while because you know kind of, okay, this is going to hit, this doesn't hit. And then you really start tailoring a really nice presentation that people really enjoy. And you really don't get there unless you fail a couple times. So you cannot be scared of failing. What's the worst that's going to happen to you on stage? You're going to say something and maybe someone's not going to react. Yeah. You're going to forget what you say. Okay, who gives a fuck? People forget what they say all the time.
Yeah. You know, I think it's not that I've been in that situation where I've, you know, spoken in front of an audience nearly the size that you've spoken in front of. But I imagine it's a lot like, you know, the first few homes you listed in your career, right? You probably weren't having the best or most intelligent conversations with those sellers, right? You're blaming the lack of showings and offers on the market or whatever it was, right? And then I'm sure when you look back at your content from early on, it was nowhere near at the level that you're doing it now, right? So that has improved a lot. Your ability to list property has improved a lot. So, you know, your episodes of the podcast that you've done most recently have improved, you know, tenfold compared to the first few episodes you guys have done. So I imagine that, you know, you're always going to fuck it up in the beginning and look back and you're your own biggest critic. But now that you've spoken at places like Inman and on some of those big stages, you know, I think it's interesting to hear that. What's funny is like when I see you do something like that, first of all, I'm psyched for you because I've been following your journey. But when I hear you doing stuff like that, what makes me anxious for you is like how you're going to get that whole room excited, how you're going to get them engaged. You know, how do you transform yourself from that content creator to the public speaker? And it's interesting to hear that you're most concerned about where you're going to sleep or how you're going to get there. So I don't think that was a question.
No, that was good.
But it's interesting. So the part of actually getting on the stage, figuring out what you're going to talk about, your talk track, you know, making sure people are engaged, you're not necessarily worried about all that stuff. It's more about the lead up. Yeah.
For me now, it's more about the lead up. I mean, I've learned now it's going to be what it's going to be. And that's how it's going to be. And then you have to figure out after, whether it's good or bad, how to navigate it from there. Always follow your gut, your intuition. I've always found even when I follow my gut, you know, most of the time it's right, but sometimes it's not. And when it's not, you'll discover that, okay, maybe that decision wasn't the right decision, but it set me up for this next decision that is the one that's going to like really hit. Yeah. So it's like, don't dwell on anything really too much. And that's what I've really learned from doing all this. And it's just repetition and consistency. Like, and we hear that always over and over and over again. Like Michael Jordan didn't make his fucking high school. He got cut from his high school basketball team. If that doesn't like wake you up and be like, oh, I'm not just going to be the best right away. I have to actually work at it. No matter how much talent you have, or you think you have to work at it consistently all the time. And that's how you're going to get better and better. I've always been me, But like you said, yeah, my videos have definitely gotten better over and over and over again, but I've been the same person the whole time.
How are you actually working at it? Is it working at it? Like, to you, is working at it just putting out more content and sort of just refining it as you go? Or is there time in your schedule, and maybe it's not so thought out, but is there time in your schedule where you're like, no, I need to work on this. I need to work on, I need to improve my lighting. I need to improve my content, my voice pattern. Are you that thought out, or are you just constantly refining it?
Yeah, I'm kind of constantly refining it. Like, as I film is when I do a lot of my like refining and tailoring almost. So like, because you can't really tell until you film something and then you watch it back. So when I'm doing a video, I've stopped trying to be just like completely perfect. So when I do a video now, like I'll do something, I'll be like, okay, that takes good. And then, but I'll notice like, I could have done that better. So next time I'm going to do this better. Like the delivery here could have been better. I could have been more clear here and things like that. Like, and it just gets better and better. But at first I was so caught up on just being absolutely perfect. I didn't want to say anything wrong. If something was in my background that was messed up, I would do the whole video again. Like it was just too perfect and it was taking too much time. And then I started finding out that the imperfections were actually the things that people would pick up on and like and relate to.
Yeah. No, that resonates in so many different levels, because that relates to your real estate career when we talked the first time, right? It's like you had this image of the persona you had to be successful in the industry. And then it started actually picking up for you when you were yourself more than anything else. So that resonates in both aspects of that, right? We had a speaker last week, and she said that people come for the plot and they stay for the character. And that's so true, right? So like being your natural vulnerable self, imperfections and all, makes people want to be around you even more. Trust is a big thing in converting business. And like there are studies now that are saying that if you look at somebody's face on on your phone, you can't differentiate the difference between seeing them in person or virtually. So the more you see them and the more they're branding themselves as like their own personality, like you're saying, it builds trust with the consumers. But I guess knowing what to talk about and go into is what screws everybody up. Because when you try to please everybody, you please nobody at the same time. So is there like
100%.
a process that you walk people through when they ask you that? Like, how do I build my own personal brand by being authentically me? And how do you be authentic?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? And a lot of these speakers now, I mean, it pisses me off because here's another pet peeve. I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to bring it back into this question. So
I'm just going to say I love when he gets fired up.
Yeah.
These speakers, they buy a bunch of followers, they buy their comments, they buy their likes, and they have a fucking course that comes out 2 weeks later. They go on a world tour of speaking. Everyone thinks they're the best thing since sliced bread, but everything they say has no substance to it because they just pick headlines from people who are really doing it and put it into their little stupid fucking PowerPoint presentation. And then they go up on stage and be like, you got to get on TikTok. TikTok's where it's at, but don't actually get into the reason why do you have to get on TikTok. You have to get on Reels. Reels is the best way to get views. Well, why is it the best way to get views? What do you have to do to get the views? So I can't stand that kind of shit. I'm actually going to be coming out with an ebook, a free ebook that's pretty much just telling people what to look for in a social media coach or a course, because I'm tired of, agents spending their hard-earned money on complete bullshit. So I'm going to just tell people what you should really look for, what questions you should ask them, what information and insights you should ask for. Like my Instagram page reaches about 500,000 people a month organically, which is pretty high. If you see someone with 100,000 followers and they're only reaching, 8,000 people a month, there's something off there. Don't buy their course because clearly they're not doing something right.
Yeah.
And it gets me into what you're saying. How do you be authentic? That's what everyone says in these things. Well, you got to be yourself. Well, unfortunately, as soon as you put a camera in front of someone, their self goes out the window.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. It's just a camera's there, they get stiff, and they don't know what to do anymore. So it comes with trial and error. Like, put the camera in front of you, figure out personality traits or parts of your character that people like. Ask your friends or your family, what do you like about me? Am I bubbly? Am I funny? Am I analytical? Am I sarcastic? And then try and bring that out a little bit. And start filming shit without, knowing you're not going to post it anywhere. So, put the camera on one day and do some real estate questions or whatever you're going to do, and just watch it back and be like, okay, is that is that me? Am I cringing while I'm watching this? Because if you're cringing while you're watching yourself, other people are going to cringe while they're watching you. And then, keep doing it. It's like reps. The next time you do it, start filming yourself knowing you're going to show your friends or your family and ask them, for real opinions. Is this okay? Like, what would you change here? Then you get better and better, and then you'll notice you're going to be more comfortable. There's a lot of tips. Like, some people like looking right into the camera. Some people don't like looking into the camera at all. Like Glenda Baker always looks off camera, and it's kind of like fly on the wall. Like she's talking to someone.
Right.
Figure out your vibe and figure out how you want to kind of like portray yourself, and then go from there. And then once you get that, it just gets better and better and better.
Yeah. No, that's so golden.